All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Today's session in the AI CX Summit, we're diving into when CX drives product. So turning customer insights into innovation. Um, it's one of the biggest shifts I see happening in customer experience right now. I'm obsessed with customer feedback, so that makes a lot of sense. And I figured to help us unpack this, we've got Cate Marques, and I've gotten to know her for a long time. She's the Chief Experience Officer at Terra Kaffe. If you don't know, she has a great story, and just want to say thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to tell people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is great, and this is also my absolute favorite topic to talk about. That, and I swear I don't say that every time I do one of these things. This is it. So as Fran mentioned, I'm Cate. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Terra Kaffe. We make well, it used to be that we made one design forward espresso machine. Now we've got a full suite of products, really building out our product portfolio over the past like 12 months and into the coming 2026, which is ridiculous to say. Um, but we make design forward products that elevate every coffee lover's experience. Started in machines. We've now branched out to a few different things. Checks out. But I've been with the company coming up now on 6 years, which is also crazy to think
Wow.
about. In some ways it feels like I've been here my whole life, and in some I'm like, wait, it's only been 6 months. How did this happen?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I joined TK in very early 2020. I was the second hire. And from the very beginning, this whole topic was our, not, I don't want to say singular area of focus, but it was something that I was dead set on implementing from day one in Terra
Yeah.
Cafe. We had our first proof of concept in the market. That's what it was meant to be. It was meant to be a proof of concept, secure some investment. Hardware is expensive, hardware
Yep.
is hard. Those truisms are completely accurate. um, but from day one, we were collecting customer insights and then feeding them into the development of our second gen machine, which has now been out for a couple of years. We've got a bunch of other stuff. We'll get into it, but suffice to say, our product lineup in any recognizable form would not exist without the insights that we have gleaned from our community over the period of years. So very excited to get into
Yeah.
it.
I've been thankful to be part of the journey on the outside for the last few years. And I've gotten to see some of the stuff you're brewing, I guess, just came up with that.
Love it. Love
Um,
it.
Sahan at the office, which is cool. I think if we can dive right into that, like you were the second hire, why was that so important to Sahan? And like, how does that change the way the product team approaches design and innovation? Because you're an IoT machine, it's connected to the app, there's a ton going on. And I know like how on top you are with feedback loops, but now that you're branching out into, which I'm sure you'll talk about, different devices for different
Yeah.
people, for different aspects of their life, like how do you pound your seat at the table and pound the customer voice and tone?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it says a lot about Sahan. He's our founder and CEO. I think it says a
Yeah.
lot about his mentality that he brought in somebody for CX so early, especially somebody high level. I think a lot of brands, maybe the founder or the COO, whomever it is, handle CX until they get to a point where the volume hits, whatever, and they can't anymore, and they bring in somebody to handle tickets. That's great. Obviously, you want somebody on, the phone, the email, whatever it is, to respond to your customers. But more than that, you need somebody that is going to understand how to capture customer feedback and channel it into the right places. And we I don't know that that was necessarily the intent for us early on. I think the intent was to provide a best in class customer experience because our machines, frankly, are expensive, right? So
Yeah.
customers come in, they have high expectations, they're buying into this aspirational luxury world of coffee, and they expect every single touch point to match that feeling. So from the beginning, CX was important to us. But then once we kind of got our footing, when I started, like I was the support line. It was my cell phone. If I was awake, we're open. We were working out of a Gmail inbox.
The good old
Once we
days.
had the systems in place and we realized like, oh, we're starting to hear some patterns, or we're getting a lot more of this type of feedback. And we started product development for the TK2, our second gen model. We realized, especially as a largely D2C company, if we're not listening to our customers, what are we doing? Right. And I think that's really true for all brands that are building for any audience, which is virtually all of them, right? If you're not listening to what people want, like you're selling yourself short.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I got fortunate early on that Sahan had a belief in the value of CX. And then from there, we built it into every single facet of the organization, and I had the privilege of being able to do that, right? Because I was the one that was there, and I kind of got to set
Yeah,
the tone. And in my opinion, CX should have a seat at every table, whether it's at the office, in the boardroom, because we collect so much gold that if that is not circulated back into other parts of the organization to drive decision making, it's like people are just guessing, right? As opposed to listening to people that are experiencing, your product or your service day in and day out. They are the ones closest to the music.
totally. Clarity, right? Everybody wants clarity. Everyone's got a ton of data. They've got a ton of
Absolutely.
spreadsheets, and it's really hard to find that. So the old way was, let's tag a bunch of tickets
Yep.
and hopefully we get those and we share them. Maybe we can combine them with other data sources if we have an analyst or we have
Mhm.
a AI tool that would do that. The world has shifted a ton since 2020,
Yeah.
specifically in the tech stack. We all know this. How have you taken advantage of that in order to, like, let's take a step back for people listening. How do you distribute internally and how do you make it fluid so that people lean in versus saying, well, is this significant? Like, do we have to care about
Yeah.
this? Should we act on this? And you have those answers.
Yeah. Yeah. God, I love what you said. I love that you even said like, oh, maybe there's a data analyst or somebody in BI, but let's be realistic. Most early stage companies do not have that. We don't have that even now, right? Like, hello, it's me. I'm the data
Yeah.
analyst.
Yeah.
And I'm not trained in that, right? But I think in the early days, it was exactly what you said. We're tagging, we're categorizing, we're doing our best to track trends, we're, sending out install based surveys. This whole area of collecting feedback and circulating it has seen a revolution so quickly. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
I'm so psyched about it. Like, I'll give you an example, right? One of the first things I did when I joined TK was sent out a survey to our install base. Like, let's just get a sense of where people stand, send them an NPS, see what they want from us. What that looked like, right, was a bunch of multiple choice questions on a Google form, little area for free write, and it
Yeah.
was little because I knew whatever came in, I would have to be the one reading it and categorizing it and trying to decipher trends from within that.
Totally.
So, we got information and we got our NPS and we had, 87% of whatever. And it was fine, right? Like it worked, and that was kind of the best we had available to us at the time. Versus this year, we sent out again, a survey to our entire installed base, which has, I don't know, probably 20 or 30x since the first time we sent out a survey.
Amazing.
And now, because of the technology we are using, it's completely different. We're no longer just locked into multiple choice questions. You can allow people the freedom to free write, what do you like about us? What don't you like about us? What do you like about your machine? What do you want to see next? People can write whatever they want because once I get that, I just export the data, dump it into Chat GPT and have a conversation,
Yeah.
right? And I am no longer the one that has to take a week or 2 weeks. What used to take me 2 weeks now takes me like 3 hours. And then beyond that, to your point, how do you share the rest of that information internally? Honestly, AI helps with that too, right? Because now I can go to that, that Chat GPT chat and like, hey, can you develop a report for product, a report for marketing? Let me know the top 3 pain points we should solve in each area of the organization. And of course, we never want to be like blindly reliant on AI and you have to spot information.
Cool.
But overall, it's become so easy for us to analyze and then circulate customer feedback. There's just no excuse not to do it anymore. You don't need a data analyst. You don't need BI. You don't need sophisticated systems. These are things that are available to pretty much everybody. Google Forms is free. ChatGPT, even if you have Pro, is like $20 a month. Like, this is available to everyone. But there are also a lot of tools that we use that we do pay for, that are worth their weight in gold. We can get into that too.
Yeah. And I think it's a really good point you bring up is like, if you're starting out and you just want to get some really great feedback, you don't have to go through a buying process and figure out a software, like all this stuff to your point is readily available. And then you hit a point where it's like, okay, we want to marry this with our data sources. We want to get very specific. We want to maybe ask questions in a multimodal way, all
Right.
these different things. Then you can take the next step. But I think you're right. Like, take the barrier to entry and lower it a lot
Mhm.
and just try. So to that point, when you start to get
Yeah.
stories, like you bring up a good point. Like, in a world where everyone is sharing stories everywhere, we're asking for feedback in a multiple choice or a checkbox. I think it just crushes brand. What people don't want to be jumbled in to another group. So when you set this out and just made it much more interactive or conversational, how did people respond? And then how did people respond internally to those stories?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. I mean, yeah, you're right. The multiple choice, I mean, it's like subject to all sorts of bias too. Like, there are studies that are like people are going to choose the last option you give them because of recency bias, all these
Yeah.
different things. And I think it's also just not very fun for customers. Like we've actually seen better engagement rates since we've changed the style of our surveys. I think because people get that we're actually asking for their thoughts. We're not trying to bucket them into,
Yes.
one of five answers. And what this has allowed us to do is turn what would have been qualitative feedback into quantitative feedback,
Yeah.
right? So we still have the quantitative questions. We are obviously, we're still going to collect NPS.
Of
It's
course.
still a huge metric for most orgs, but the customers have given us much richer insights because we're not leading the horse to water. We're just letting them speak their minds. And then on our side, because of the way AI can synthesize, thousands and thousands and thousands of responses really quickly, we can ask follow-up questions, right? Okay, so we see that drink temperature is a driving factor for dissatisfaction. Of that, how many of those people mentioned milk-based drinks? How many mentioned espresso-based drinks? Like how dire does it seem? And you can quantify all of that now instantaneously. And in the way that that's received by other parts of the org,
Yeah.
I think it used to be very dry, right? Like, you know, 75% of customers would make a repeat purchase. That hits very differently than, 75% of customers would make a repeat purchase. And also, here's what they love about their machine. Here's what they're looking from us
Yeah.
for next from us, whatever it is. And you can start to weave together a narrative that makes it compelling, which, frankly, makes it more likely that people will read it. You can also tailor it to your audience so it pertains to their specific part of the org, right? Like I can say, pull out everything that touches on software updates, firmware updates, issues with the hardware, and like make sure that that's all front and center for the engineering team because it actually pertains to them. They care less about the comments on our ads on meta platforms. They care more
Yeah.
about what customers are saying about the most recent firmware update.
Right. Yeah, totally. I think personalization, we talk a lot about it to the consumer, but
Yeah.
you're spot on around needing to personalize internally to get the action, right? Like they don't
Right.
care about shipping delays. Product team cares about what people love or don't love about the
Right.
product. It's also a good point. You brought up early, you joined Terra Cafe, you believed in the mission, took a huge risk
Yeah.
and said, I want to help build this out. And that feedback loop to you and then to the rest of the org, when things do go well, they want to know that, like, wow, I made an impact on this
Right.
person's life, that we've launched
Right.
this product, changed the way that they consume like their favorite beverage of the day.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, right? Like that's an emotional string you can pull. So I guess to that point, like what is something that a customer piece of feedback or an insight taught you that just like you have all the analytics in the product, you have the app, like you know exactly what people are clicking. I guess separate the two. Like what was an organic piece of customer feedback that just like really drove action?
Ooh, I love that. That's such a good question. So we get a lot of organic feedback. About a year ago, we launched a beta branch, right? So we opened up applications for customers. We told them, tell us why you want to be part of this.
Yeah.
And you get access to everything early firmware releases, early product. You have to sign an NDA. You have to say sign a waiver of liability. So we got a massive number of applications, whittled it down to, our first 25 members. It's grown a bit since then. But the organic feedback we get from this group has driven product roadmap. It's been incredible. I mean, even last week we launched a new firmware update and it contained a feature that customers really want, right? So our TK2 connects to an app as you mentioned, and you can set it to wake up and brew a coffee for you at whatever time you want. What customers have been asking for is, but I want to set a different schedule for every day of the week because maybe Monday through Friday I get up at 6, but on Saturday and
Mm,
Sunday I get up at 8:30. So we took it back to the team. We made it a reality. We launched it. We launched it early, luckily, to our beta testers. And we realized pretty quickly there were some bugs in it that hadn't been caught because of these obscure reasons I don't need to get into, right? Um, but they caught the bug And then we were able to really quickly jump on it and squash it before we went ahead and, sent the firmware out to the other 60,000 machines.
Yep.
So we're getting these organic pieces of feedback. And in that, it's not massive, right? It's not in a formal survey. It's not in a CSAT. It's nothing really. I mean, it's a channel we didn't even have for ourselves before a year ago, but that is making a huge difference in the experience of our install base.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's saying it a different way, like getting to 95% of the way there. Like you're launching what they want, all of these things, but that extra 5% that you can go is what drives retention and builds brand
Right.
loyalty, that like you really hear these customers and you take it very,
Yeah.
very seriously.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think, brands like yours and
yeah.
mine, that we have to. We're young brands, we're challenger brands.
Yeah.
There's going to be an increased amount of scrutiny on us because we don't have, you know, the centuries or decades or whatever it is of experience to rely on, right?
Sure.
We can't really lean on that. So there's always going to be more scrutiny. There's a higher bar to excellence for brands like ours. And there should
Absolutely.
be. That's okay. Give me a challenge. I'm here for it.
Do you have your TK2 set to 8:30 a.m. on the weekends? I doubt it, right?
I don't. Mine's at 6 a.m. every day.
We both have
Yeah.
kids. It's like, no way. There's no chance.
Yeah, no, it's not happening. One day, right?
Tell the group about some of the ways that you are, like you had mentioned early days, like, free surveys and things like that. You have one of the more forward-looking tech stacks and have done a really good job of bringing these systems together to operate as like one cohesive unit
Yeah,
to really help you and stay lean. Walk the group through how you're doing that and like some of the stuff that they should be aware of.
yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So, man, God, this is something that's changed so much. Like I mentioned earlier, in the beginning, we were operating out of a Gmail inbox. Our help support line was my phone. If I was awake, that was it. Though we didn't have hours. Since then, I think we've built out a tech stack I'm really proud of, especially considering, where we are in terms of resourcing, right? We're still a very small, very young brand.
Yeah.
And I am super psyched I've gotten to a point where I actually love everything in our tech stacks. We were on another CRM for a while, swapped over to customer about 4 years ago. It's been great for us. One of the things that we like best about it is how easily it integrates with everything else. Because at this point, we actually have more CX team members than we do full-time employees of the company. So it's, of paramount importance to me that they be able to stay in one system as much as they possibly can and not having to hop back and forth and
Yeah.
context switch and lose efficiency. We implemented generative AI very early. We partnered with Sienna AI. We're coming up on our 2-year anniversary with them.
Wow.
So we were actually one of their earliest customers. Similarly with Hark, I don't think we were one of your earliest, but we were pretty early. The platform has
Yeah.
changed a lot since then. And we've also changed the way too that we use all of these tools. Like Hark, for instance, was typically, it basically took over our contact form. For us, a product of our complexity, we rely very heavily on video and audio in order to diagnose issues. And we needed something that would completely eliminate any barrier to customers sending that to us because they're already having an issue with their coffee machine. Let's make it very easy for them to
Yeah.
get help. But we've recently changed that. We just launched another machine. It's the Demi. It's our little baby machine. And one thing that's always been important to us when you put a new product into the market, UGC is critical to build credibility. So we now, in our post-purchase email flow, have an email that incentivizes customers to drop us UGC in exchange for loyalty points. We use Okendo for loyalty, and that's all done through Hark. So customers will record a video of themselves brewing on their new machine. That sends a ping to Slack, so I know it comes in, and I go look at it, and then they get their loyalty points. And there's even a little checkbox that says we can whitelist this, use this for paid marketing or whatever, because we've seen, UGC performs really well for us. It's, the closest thing on the internet to word of mouth, which is huge for a product like ours.
Yeah.
And then similarly, the way that we use Sienna has evolved as well. Initially, it was just, okay, cool. It's basically another agent in the inbox, really, really fast one. But the Sienna team has executed absolutely ruthlessly on their roadmaps. And we now use it for a lot of our insights as well. And just the synthesizing of so much information.
Yeah.
So those are the big ones. I would say the ones we really rely heavily on are customer Hark and Sienna. And then we've got other stuff, we've got Okendo, AirCall for phones and stuff. But those three core ones, I think, are the ones that have really evolved over the years and evolved alongside us in a way that allows us to better serve our community.
Yeah, I love that. I'm honored to be one of those top three. Um, I guess wrapping up the convo, is there anything in terms of, as you are very forward looking and adopting technology and sifting out like who you think those players should be, outside of that, like anything you would give feedback to on the audience or think they should know going to this new era of even collecting feedback or using it to drive action?
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. I think first and foremost, technology never moves backwards. It doesn't. And I think those of us who are quick to move and learn and when it makes sense adopt new technologies, and I know it's easier said than done and there's
Yeah,
compliance and things like that, but I think the sooner you can at least start educating yourself on it, the better off both your business and your community will be, right? Because
yeah,
every new technology that comes out is going to change customer expectations, as well as the ability you have to really surface relevant insights cross functionally. So move fast to the extent that you can. And then I think beyond that, ensure your systems talk to one another, right? That is critical, especially, we're in Q4 right now, right? Volume is at an all-time high for most brands. And the last thing you want is to lose efficiency, lose speed as people have to kind of flip-flop between different systems.
yep.
And again, that benefits both your customers and your business. And then finally, as it pertains specifically to customer feedback, make it really easy. Make it really easy for other departments to listen to it. Make it personalized for them. Make it short, concise, digestible. Then ask follow-up questions because now, if they ask a follow-up question about a data set, you don't have to go back through and like comb through and, make new Excel formulas. You can do all that very easily. Encourage a two-way conversation. And then finally, talk to your customers, right? We're all already talking to them in whatever support channels we have, right? Which for most brands is multiple. But see if you can set up channels elsewhere, ones that aren't necessarily driven on user, dissatisfaction or user error. Like see if you can proactively get those conversations started, whether it's, beta testing, whether it's collecting UGC, whether it's just capturing people when they're happy rather than, just when they have an issue. I think, people that are having a negative experience are just like by definition more vocal than those having a positive experience. But you want to ideally hear from both and figure out what's driving all experiences so you can improve all experiences.
Amazing. What you said, technology never moves backward. That was a really elegant way of saying it. Awesome, Kate. Thank you. I know, especially heading into the busy season, I really appreciate your time. Um, how do people find you? LinkedIn,
Yeah.
email?
LinkedIn, my email is kate@terrakaffe.com. Kate's with the C. It's okay. But yeah, hit me up anytime. I love chatting and nerding out. Fran can attest to that. Yeah, and follow Terra Kaffe too. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming out. So you
A
won't
lot
want
of fun
to miss
stuff.
it.
Very cool. Awesome to see the journey. Kate, thank you. Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you so much, Fran.
Yep. See ya.